March 4th, here it is, episode number 17 of The Grail, your one-stop shop for all things art, handmade, and cool stuff. Yeah, I don't know how to label the show. It's just basically people that are in the world of art or making cool stuff, painting, architecture, cars, denim. It's everything, man. I throw it at the fucking wall and see what sticks. I love when people say that. That's not what I do. If I love what the people do, or the particular person, or the small boutique company, I have them on. Today is no exception. I love rock and roll jewelry. I've been obsessed with rock and roll jewelry since probably seeing Led Zeppelin, Robert Plant coming out wearing turquoise rings, some kind of cool necklace. Keith Richards with that badass skull ring and that amazing link chain bracelet he has on the cover of Talk is Cheap. Keith Richards really was the blueprint for the cool rock and roll jewelry. And, I didn't know where to find it. I used to comb kind of thrift stores and secondhand stuff and garage sales and flea markets and find shit to put on. This looks cool, right? And later on, you look at it in photos, you're like, what was I doing? But once I got to LA, I found the stuff. I found the cool shit that I always wanted to have. And it was people like Chrome Hearts. It was people like Bill Wall. It was Gabor. It was Crazy Pig. And it was my guest today that makes some of the best stuff I've ever seen. Josh Warner of Good Art Hollywood. And this guy's stuff, I would say, is just absolutely next level. It's way beyond your skull ring. It's way beyond just your typical wallet chain. This is some beautiful handcrafted art. I mean, some of the stuff, the keychain I have is gold. Not made of gold, but it's just designed to be the ultimate. It's the gold standard of keychains to me. His money clip is next level. Some of his stuff that he's doing right now just blows my mind. The COVID masks are crushing. He's been doing it most of his life. He's a deadhead. He's a rock and roller. He is a biker, and he's a friend of mine. I recommend you follow him, Good Art Hollywood, and lose your mind at the quality of this stuff. I can't even believe how intricate and how precise and beautiful the pieces of jewelry come out. And his wife, Rachel, is also an incredible human. I've spent a lot of time with these guys over the last, I would say, 5-6 years, going to Dead concerts, going to his events that he has, hanging out at concerts that I've put on, he's come hung out at, all kinds of stuff. And I just love his spirit and his passion, and he's perfect for the Grail, the Holy Grail of the rock and roll, and I would hate to say hipster jewelry because then people go, oh, fucking hipsters, man. But it is some hip ass shit. Anyway, episode is brought to you by Optical Connection. A lot of people asking where I get all my incredible eyewear. It is right in Studio City at Optical Connection. And they're going to hook you up. They ship anywhere around the world. They've got all the great brands that I love. Jacques Marie, Maj. They have the Blake Kuwaharas. They have everything in there. And hit up my man Armin, 818-766-4848. Or go to the website, optical-connection.com, and use the code DEAN and get your discount. Or call them and tell them I sent you. They will ship anywhere. They have massive, massive selections of Jacques Marie Maj and Blake Kuwahara. Both those frames are my all-time favorite. optical-connection.com. Also, don't forget about cbdlion.com for all your CBD needs. If you're having a little trouble sleeping, if you got some joint aches, or if you have some anxiety, CBD is going to help. And you do not want to get that truck stop CBD beep, 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 sip, turned into that robot on Buck Rogers. Get down, Buck. You do not want to get that bogus CBD that you see at the 7-Eleven counter or some truck stop. You want to get third-party tested, clean CBD. CBDlion.com. Use the code DEAN and get 20% off. So there's two great offers for you guys. And also don't forget about my good friend Mark Brunot's podcast, a rockandrollrabbithole.com. Get into his podcast, deep dive into all things rock and roll. My boy Mark Brunot from Australia, a guitar player and a rocker, and a big Del Raiser and fan of this show and Let There Be Talk, has his own podcast, and it's great. A rockandrollrabbithole.com. That's the website, or get it on Spotify and iTunes. All right, let's get into it. It is episode 17, and please subscribe and leave a review. It greatly helps the podcast. And also check out my YouTube channel and my patreon.com/Dean Del Rey. I know a lot of fucking info to take in, but there are a lot of new listeners here. We were in the top 10 a couple weeks ago, and I want to keep building this show because I believe in it, and I love all the guests and what they do with their hands and their mind and their artistic flavors. Here he is, Josh Warner, Good Art, Candles Lit. Josh makes jewelry. His company's called Good Art, and you're out of downtown Los Angeles, right?
Yep. Josh Warner, just for the record, in case you're recording this.
Josh Warner. Yeah, we're recording. Fucking. Now, where are you from? Before we get into what you do, where are you from, and all that stuff?
I'm from LA.
You're from LA?
Yeah, born and raised. My folks went to Fairfax. Yeah.
Wow. Did you go to Fairfax too?
No, I got into way too much trouble before high school to stick around.
What? You didn't go to high school?
I went to high school, but it was in Montana with bears. By the time I was 13, I'd had are they called brushes with the law?
Yeah.
I never understood that.
Yeah.
I've had brushes with the law, and by the time I was 13, 2 felonies, got in front of a judge, and he said, "Son, you're going to have to go spend some time in juvenile hall." And,
whoa.
And my dad, in his infinite wisdom, sweetest man I know, Buddy Warner. It's a shout out to the guy who will never hear this.
Yeah.
Sweet man.
Is he still alive?
He's still alive.
Well, he might be a big fan of Let There Be Talk.
He could be. Can he get it on his Timex?
Yeah.
So he stood up and he said to the judge, he said, "Your Honor, if this was your kid, what would you do?" And the judge looks at him and says, "Well, if that was my kid, I'd make sure he left the state and wasn't the pain in the ass of some judge."
Well, he just said leave the state. Hey, I'd get rid of him. Just leave the state.
He did. He sent me to Montana. I went to school up in Montana for a year and a half, and I tell you, it was like it was going from like Bret Easton Ellis, Less Than Zero, Los Angeles, to who was the guy with the big beard and the grizzly bear?
Oh yeah, he just passed away.
He did,
which is a bummer. That was Grizzly Adams.
Grizzly Adams. That was his real name.
But was he? He had that bear that he used to make out with.
That's right. So I lived in Montana from 13 to 15, and
like a boarding school.
Kind of. There were 13 other students. I'm using that word loosely. There were 13 other fuck ups there.
How did your dad find this place?
I don't actually know. I don't know. I think he called around other distraught parents.
Yeah.
I was a troublemaker. Yeah. But what happened was interesting because when you get out of the city environment and you're in nature and it's cold and you've got to chop wood to make a fire.
Was it that kind of scene? Like, what part of Montana? Like, it was like river runs miles, through it. Shit.
It was just like that. It was like 50 miles south of Canada, 50 miles east of Idaho. little town called Thompson Falls, near a river called the Clark Fork. It was like, yeah, it was like what you see in the movies, and your priorities change. You're not looking to like score coke and hang out with older kids. You're looking to stay warm and not get frostbite or eaten by a bear.
No, there's other problem childs there too. Are you guys fighting or anything?
Oh, no. We all sort of bonded in our misfitness. There was I remember this chick, Acacia Scully. Her dad was Rock Scully, like manager for the Grateful Dead.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Rock Scully's daughter was going there?
Yeah, Stein Erikson Jr. was there.
What kind of trouble was she in?
You can't imagine.
Is it like for rich kids?
I think so. We weren't rich. We were firmly planted in the middle class, but there were some notorious kids. There was one kid whose dad was like a Grand Wizard of the KKK.
No.
I'm not shitting you. It was a bizarre, eclectic mix. There was one kid who was like the greatest guitar player I'd ever heard. And, this chick whose dad started Farino radar things on the top of ships. Like, so yeah, there were a lot of rich kids and a lot of like just sort of poor, dumb fuck-ups. And then I was right smack in the middle.
Right.
I was smart, but I was definitely a
So there's like 13 kids there?
When I arrived, yeah, it was a pretty small little group, and the first thing we did was build a cabin to hire more staff and put more students in. We built log cabins.
Wow! Now, when you're staying there, is it all everybody sleeps in one big room?
No, the cabins would hold like 6. So when I got there, there were 3 sort of half full, and then we kept building them, and it was I'd like to complain about it, but the truth is, I went from like a pretty strong downward spiral into a really beautiful environment where I worked instead I went to school. And so as a kid, that was cool as hell. And when I came out the other side of it, I didn't miss any of the schooling. I tested well enough to get right back into school. And I came out with sort of I want to say street smarts, but I wasn't in the streets. I came out with the woods smarts.
Yeah, yeah. Which is, you're learning like craftsmanship up there, right? Like building stuff. Did you know that?
Never even thought about that. You're totally right. Yeah, working with your hands.
Yeah, working with your hands because you're building cabins and shit. And are you like? I gotta imagine like at first you're like, this is bullshit. Like you're building cabins and stuff.
It was.
Did you ever think of running away? Like you're way out in the hell of nowhere.
They thought of that before I did. It was so far from anything.
Wow.
That the highway was a 6-mile walk or 4-mile walk. It was.
What kind of food and stuff? You make your own food, or they got people there like feeding you?
They had funny rules about things like every kid who went there, smoked weed, so weed was not allowed anymore. But cigarettes, if you wanted those, you had to roll your own.
Yeah.
You couldn't buy what they called straights, so you had to have like Top or Bugler or whatever. So we all rolled smokes. And then food, they didn't want us to eat like McDonald's shit, so it was all kind of homegrown veggies and that. And then for meat, we were typically eating like deer and elk.
It's like a hippie prison.
It was it was minus the patchouli.
Yeah, right.
It was a hippie prison.
Wow.
It was pretty incredible, and I think it sort of at a young age it gave me this determinism that if I set my sights on something, I could kind of head in that direction and never really worried about not getting there. It brings survival down to a more basal kind of thing. It's funny. I don't think about it a lot, but I think it probably had a good influence on my life after that.
Yeah. It's like me. I was born in Yosemite and spent a lot of time there, and then didn't go for 20 years. And then when I went back about 10 years ago or something, I was like, oh man, it was almost like like someone just threw some kind of Valium on my whole body. Like, just like, ooh, man. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really think about that in the hustle and bustle of LA, the grind. But I bet if you went back there, you would really like...
I agree.
You would just have these memories of like, wow, this really formed me. I would have probably been maybe dead or in prison, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think when you grow up in a city, that's just the stuff around you. And, if you're lucky enough to have a BMX bike and jump the curbs with your friends, that's cool. But when you get out in nature where there's not a 7-Eleven on every corner, you're looking at things from a totally different perspective. The smells and everything's different. So I love it.
Yeah. I think it's a lot like the movie Over the Edge, That's a 70s film with Matt Dillon, and really turned me on.
Oh,
yeah, where they take over the school
yeah.
and they imprison the parents and everybody. That kind of like it's as radical as that seemed at the time, or you and I, what we thought was radical back then. It's such a simple thing of maybe just teen angst and rage, you know, compared to now with like guns and full blown like it's just radical now. When I look at it back then, you know, it's like, oh yeah, you know, you're getting a lot of trouble on your BMX bike, and drugs and rock and roll hits you, and puberty all hits you at once, and it's like a fucking time bomb, you know.
It does seem like the volume's up a little higher on like how much trouble a kid can get into there now.
Yeah, now, man, it's crazy. I mean, the sky's the limit. If you're a good internet person, you can be a hacker, or you can be a street thug, or you know what I mean? I mean, it's just gangster out there. So you get out of this thing, and you come home, and you're back into school, high school?
Yeah, I spent another year and a half in high school. I went to school in Ojai.
Oh, yeah. Another hippie thing.
Yeah, another hippie thing. It was beautiful.
Did your parents move out there, or you
No,
just...
they
I know that school. It's up on the hill.
Yeah.
I went there, actually, to shoot something.
Happy Valley, it was called.
It's unbelievable. I went up there. I couldn't believe it. I went there to shoot some part in a film, and we went up this long hill.
Through a walnut grove, right?
Yeah, and there's people live there and everything. Yeah. It's beautiful. And as weird as it seemed, I was like, man, I probably would have loved going to school here. They had these places where you lived, and the view was unbelievable. I actually been there.
That's incredible. And the mountains up there, they're called Topa Topa, that big
They got horses you can ride, everything up there. It's beautiful, right?
It was very cool. And I do remember one of the most fascinating things to me was so it was a boarding school. We lived, you know, in these long dorms. And there were a lot of people from other countries there, so it was a strange school. It was a pretty bizarre hippie spot. But again, you know, when you're in the middle of that stuff, it's hard to recognize how powerful an effect it's going to have on you. And then later on, you look back and you're like, "Wow, I was pretty lucky to be in that environment." One of those houses that you see on the road coming up, it belonged to this artist named Beatrice Wood.
Right.
And she was an amazing ceramicist, Dada artist, like hung out with just all the cool cats who you read about, and and she's there spinning pots and teacups and doing all sorts of stuff. And it's you're a little kid. You're kind of I wasn't a little kid. I guess I was 15 or 16,
right.
But I was into making things already.
Right.
And
are you taking shop there?
You know, I started painting when I was there.
Yeah.
And I already kind of felt like if I needed something, I'd go make it out of hammer and nails. I never had like a back off on that. But learning the more specific sides of a craft, I remember spending lots of time at Beatrice's house, and you know, she'd go sit on a potting wheel and show me stuff, and that'd be really cool. And then her manservant would come in and say, "Okay, she's tired, she has to go." And then she'd say, "Oh yes, I'm tired, I have to go." And she'd walk away. and then I'd play there and tinker for a while.
Yeah, you're doing like clay on the wheel.
Yeah,
I love that with the foot, man. I love that stuff. I did it in high school. You know, of course, you're making bongs. You know.
Yeah. I think if I look back on it, it's much different than when I was in the middle of it. But a lot of stuff's like that, you know.
Yeah.
Life is still like that for me. I sometimes look back on stuff I did just a few years ago and I say, shit, that was good.
Yeah.
That was fun. That was cool. I'm glad I was there.
Yeah, I get that. You, now when I see you, we met at a motorcycle shop I was working at.
That's right.
I talk about it quite a bit as like I'm doing comedy.
We bonded over Chris's Westco boots.
Yeah, exactly.
Langlet's leathers.
Yeah, Langlet's leathers.
And motorcycles.
Yeah, motorcycles and jewelry.
And jewelry.
You know,
yeah.
and it's hilarious because when there's a certain kind of person I see a lot in L.A., not so much in San Francisco and New York. It's an L.A. thing, I think. A guy will wear a lot of stuff, say some jewelry. They really have a specific boot, a specific jacket, a motorcycle, a watch. It's not a rocker, and it's not like it's just this guy. There's a lot of these guys, and a lot of it was in the 80s of like Leathers and Treasures on Melrose, And remember Lords, all these stores that really were where all this stuff early on started, like vintage denim and all that, and custom leather. How do you get into this stuff before you start doing what you do?
You know, I liked, it's so funny. I think part of it is I liked, I just like making stuff.
Yeah.
And I like, everybody who makes things thinks they have good taste. I mean, that's.
Yeah, of course.
you look at something, you're like, shit, I could do that better. I got good taste. The proof's in the pudding later on when you see if other people agree if you have good taste. But I always like making things. But in the beginning, it was mostly, it was painting. I liked painting.
Who were you into? Were you into like Robert Williams and that stuff?
No.
Like Mark Ryden?
I liked that stuff, but I never thought of it as the stuff that I would do, that sort of thing.
It's funny because when you see you, you think that's what he's going to be. You know, he's going to be a Todd Shore kind of guy just because of the look. But that's just a dumb thing for me because when you meet these guys, they don't look like at all like us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. There were, I mean, my art influences, painting wise, were definitely of like a specific era. I sure loved like. Well, I mean, it's easy to like Pollock and Sam Francis and these cats who made messes. But who was the cat who did all the American flags?
Oh, yeah. Who was
Jasper
that?
Johns?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I love Jasper Johns, and I remember a turning point for me was looking at a painting he called Device, and there were a bunch of them like Device 1, 3, 8, whatever. And there was a painting, and it was in caustic, so it was like wax and oil, and there was a stick. And it held on by a nail, and it looked like he'd sort of scraped the stick like a pendulum.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I thought, oh, that's so interesting. That's a pendant, but that's a painting, but that's a pendant. And it sort of, it broke through like, I don't know, what you're supposed to do on a painting.
Yeah,
and it wasn't long after that I made things that were sort of sculptural, like bending chicken wire and covering with tape and painting them. And it was for my own entertainment. I liked this stuff. Or coat hangers. I remember making a coat hanger look like a chicken mosquito.
Were you working a job at the time and just doing this as a hobby?
Well, I was doing this stuff. I ended up spending 3 years in college, and I was doing this stuff all through college, and I loved it. And funny enough, I ended up getting college credit for a lot of that.
Where'd you go to college?
Pitzer College, one of the Claremont colleges. Scripps, Harvey Mudd, Claremont McKenna,
Gotcha.
Pomona.
Yeah.
This was like sort of the artsy one of the bunch. And
are your parents hippies?
No, you'd think. I was no. My parents. My dad's an accountant, and my mom was like stay-at-home mom, and she was doing karate and had her tubes tied, and then I came and kicked my way out.
Karate. She had her tubes tied, and she got pregnant?
Yeah. So my two older brothers were sort of like that. That was it. The family unit. Those four, they were done, and then 8 years later, I said, "Wait a second.
Wow.
Excuse me.
Wow.
I'm coming in."
That shit didn't work, right?
No, there was no Boy Scout, that doctor.
Oh, wow.
So I was later on, I was sort of an afterthought, I think, and I definitely like didn't act or look or sound or
anything like your brothers.
No, and I love them all. They're all amazing. But I was always like I was the ugly duckling.
Right.
I was the odd man out, and that's fine. I've never even said that out loud, probably because.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. There's a funny photo I saw not long ago from, I think I was maybe 8 years old, and it's the mom and dad and the two kids in front, Mike and Danny in front, and then I'm off to the left about 20 inches away from them with my head cocked to the side, big, bushy, blonde mop. They all have dark brown hair, and I'm wearing a shirt that says ripped and has like a big fat guy with a joint hanging out of his mouth and a beer. and I look nothing like them.
Just the freak, brother.
Yeah. But at college I found like this is great. I can study what I want or do what I want, and they validate me for it. Like, this place is great. And then my dad found out I was studying art for 3 years. And he said, No, you need a business degree. Go out in the world and work for a year, and you can come back after that.
Wow.
So I did 3 years, and then that was it, and then I started working.
Where were you working?
Well, my first job out of college, I had to cut my hair, which was down to my ass. I had to buy a suit. My dad got me a suit, and I was wearing Birkenstocks, so I had to get like closed-toed shoes.
Yeah.
And I went.
Were you into the Dead and shit like that?
Oh yeah.
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 Fucking. So you're like into that acid culture thing, right? You're just like Dead and that whole thing, that hippie thing, right?
I fell into the rock and roll really easily because I had older brothers, and one was Beatles and one was Stones, so I got to hear both. And
yeah,
I guess everything from their era through, it kind of carried with me when I started buying my own music or listening to my own music or going to shows. We had Wolf and Rissmiller Country Club in the Valley. We see incredible shows out here.
Yeah, who were you seeing?
Everybody from Elvis Costello to Talking Heads.
80s.
Yeah,
Talking Heads. Incredible, this band.
Yeah.
It's funny, growing up, I hated the Talking Heads, and I wasn't really into the New York scene. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't love all the music at once, because as you get older, you go like, oh, fuck, this New York shit's great. And all of a sudden, it's like, all of a sudden you got a whole new set of records you can buy. Yeah. And that rabbit hole goes down for 2-3 years. You're like, fucking Talking Heads, are you kidding me? And television and Lou Reed and all that. And you get into that. And then like later, all of a sudden, right now, to me, it's full on the Dead. And I'm just fucking engulfed in the Dead. It's great. If I would have got it all back then, I think I would have just hit the ceiling on music and been burnt on it by now.
Yeah, I could totally see that. It's great to discover something new,
New old.
Yeah,
it's
new.
Right?
Yeah, it's like new old stock music.
It's like I eat sushi like crazy. 20 years ago, I wouldn't have fucking touched that, man. Not even if you said, here's 100, eat this raw piece. I would have said, fuck that, It's funny, your palate just, and I think that's how it is with art and food and wine and whatever, drugs, whatever you're doing, you find this motion and grow with them,
Yeah,
especially with art, man. Art really.
Art, music, all that stuff. Yeah, for sure. Those are that's the thing I think I learned early on was, I had a brother who was an electrical engineer. My other brother's a lawyer. My dad's an accountant. My uncle's a dentist.
Wow.
My cousin's a dentist. I always fell in that sort of aesthetic band, they'd walk in and their conversations would just be like, it'd be like, some sort of analytical breakdown of something going on. And I'd say, well, that is pretty. That sure is nice. I like how that fits together. And
I remember that my family would be kind of like that, and they'd be like, you still doing that band thing? That band thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when are you outgrowing that? You know what I mean? That's basically what they're saying. It's funny because when you're an artist in a family, you're usually only one artist, and it's so weird when you go to gatherings or Christmas or Thanksgivings, because they're all talking jobs and all that shit, and you're just kind of like, I don't get it,
Yeah.
And they're looking at you like, this guy, man. I remember my grandfather used to always be like, look at my mom like, you got a fuck up kid, like totally.
That was for sure me. That was for sure me.
Yeah, me too. I didn't do a lot of fucking up, but I saw no purpose of school and stuff like that. And in the long run, I feel like I was right. Because there's so much stuff that they tried to teach us back then, like fractions. I don't fucking use that shit.
What?
Yeah, exactly. It was funny. Last night I was on the West Coast Japanese site, and it was all in Japanese. I just hit translate, boom, and now, I don't even need to learn a language.
You see all those crazy combinations Sonny put together?
Yeah.
Those boots are sick.
It's just great. But my point is, like, you feel different, but you don't feel different. Because did you have friends that were into shit you were into, or were you a loner?
No. I think I always had friends that were into the music and motorcycles and the stuff I was into. That was easy because you sort of, I don't want to say you hang out in cliques, but you tend to, you want to talk to somebody, you want to talk about stuff you like.
Yeah.
So
who was your motorcycle guy? What got you on it? Evel Knievel?
Well, I Evel Knievel for sure got me on it, but what really got me on it was this little fat kid with freckles who had a 50cc dirt bike.
Out in your neighborhood?
Yeah, and
everybody has that guy.
It was like the forbidden fruit, and I would do anything I could to befriend this guy to go, and for some reason he liked me, and I didn't want to see him unless we were riding his motorcycle.
Yeah.
I was kind of a prick, but he had this 50cc and these like 15 or 20 orange trees that we just sort of made a track in between, and We could ride that thing until we ran out of gas and had to beg his mother to like get us to the gas station to get another.
I remember the 50cc with the adjustable handlebars. It had the weird fucking pig,
little monkey
pig
bikes.
tank. Yeah, I remember that. I remember, man. This kid in my neighborhood had a mini bike he built. And he would build like mini bikes, and I don't even know where he got this shit. And I went over, he said, I'll sell you this one for $30. And I had like a paper route, and I scraped
so
everything
good.
together, and I got it. And I had to hide it from my mom, like, because there's no way I could tell her I bought a mini bike. So I would store it over at this other guy's house. I remember we got on it, and the fucking thing lit on fire, because we poured gas into that Briggs and Stratton motor, and then some of the gas got back by the pipe, and we're like, oh, it's gonna blow up, But
You build ramps.
yeah, that shit, man. Mini bikes and that Honda 50. And then later, of course, I got into Roger DeCoster and Bob Hanna and the RM80, and then Hanna rode Yamaha. But it was all that shit of just like the smell of two-stroke, I think, It's just it's like a fucking drug.
Yeah, I definitely remember the whole sort of forbidden aspect, like my folks can't know about this and hiding it.
Yeah.
And then I remember my folks weren't big on me watching TV. Or chocolate milk or a bunch of other weird shit. But I remember I had to drink fucking Carob milk from Trader Joe's. I was not stoked.
They had Trader Joe's back then?
That's funny. Yeah, they did.
They did?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know about Trader Joe's until like 5 years ago. I swear to God, I thought it's just a new chain out of nowhere,
No, they've been around for like at least 10 years.
Wow, that's fucking hilarious.
Maybe 30. But
Wow.
I remember hiding stuff. I remember I scored a go-kart made out of a lawnmower that I remember had hidden, but I wasn't supposed to be watching TV much.
Yeah.
But I do remember on the weekends there was this show, Wide World of Sports.
Unbelievable.
And there was what was the one with Jack Hanna and the Lions and.
Oh yeah,
it was like
the Animal Kingdom or whatever.
Yeah, so there was that one, and then there was Wide World of Sports, and then ABC had the Super Bikers.
Yeah, Super Bikes.
Yeah, but I think it was called the Super Bikers.
Wow.
It was like it was half asphalt.
Oh yeah, remember that?
Half dirt.
Yeah.
And it was the craziest.
I actually just
races.
watched that recently on YouTube.
Is that right?
Yeah, man.
I gotta find it.
It was like out at Cal Jam or whatever is where they were running that,
They had like a full-on sort of
Yeah.
dirt track turned into asphalt, turned into road course.
That's it, man. I remember that shit.
But I was definitely hooked, and with older brothers around, it was cool to sort of say, hey, I like this, and then my brothers would be like, give me the wink, especially my brother Mike. He knew, like, oh yeah, we can't tell mom and dad about that. And then he used to take me out shooting, take me to California City, off-roading.
Yeah.
So I got my fix of being sort of rebellious and young and free. I think just by virtue of having people around who are so much older. And for you drink a beer, you light up a smoke at 18, no big deal. But when you're 12 or 10, it's like it's so forbidden. And so it's good to have those older influences around to make sure you don't get too far out of line, but let you get a little crazy.
Yeah, my friends were older also. That's how you find out about Ted Nugent and black light posters and fucking lava lamps and
Handboy Dukes,
weed and the fucking all that shit. So, all right, you remember your first motorcycle? Because I'm only asking because we met at a motorcycle shop, which is funny.
I do remember my first motorcycle really, really well.
Yeah.
All through college, I really wanted a motorcycle. And I'm not an advocate for drugs, so drugs keep coming up. I just got to make it clear. Don't do drugs. Stay in school. Be cool. But I sold weed a lot in college to sort of, make pocket money and
what are you selling, Colombian or is this 80s? Because in the 80s, there was some good weed around in the 80s. It's just not as strong as it was now. But that's really when the green, like indica bud comes around. Because in the 70s, it's that dirt Colombian and some Thai stick you always heard about.
We weren't ashamed. We would go up to Humboldt and Eureka.
Yeah.
And we'd go up in our friend's van or however. I went up there on 3 different trips. And once was definitely the best. It was in a VW van named the Minnow 2.
Yeah, the Minnow 2.
And our friend Eric, we called him Gilligan. That was his van. It was a pretty epic trip, and I remember we went up there to buy a bunch of weed, and at some point that all was successful, and then I found some dude who sold me a gigantic paper shopping bag full of mushrooms for $500 and brought that back. I'm not sure why we're talking about the drugs here.
That's great though.
Oh no. Okay, so back then, I really wanted a motorcycle. Yeah, I wanted a motorcycle. Motorcycle was I don't know. It was $3,000 to $5,000 for something pretty sick.
Yeah.
So for $2,000, you'd find something that was pretty rideable. So I thought, okay, I just got to get to $2,000.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm saving and saving and saving. I can never get there. And I'd take trips to dealerships. I'd go see stuff like just at garage sales. And this one time I was at a Harley dealership and I was looking at everything. I was like, damn, these are really cool here.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was so far away from being able to afford a bike, especially something at a dealership, that I ended up buying a jacket. and I wore that fucking jacket for so many years. I only sold it like 5 years ago.
Wow.
It was a big, heavy like Vance and Highwayman, and I wore that jacket for so long.
Yeah.
And that jacket. Well, it was like I was putting it there like in the physical universe. Like soon I'm going to be on a motorcycle. Can't you see?
Yeah.
I got a jacket. I got the motorcycle jacket.
I got the first thing.
So So I was assembling the kit. And then after school, after 3 years of school, I went and I worked for a bit, and I did a few odd jobs. I did a stint for a year with a residential real estate management company that was just bizarre. Cut my hair and got a job there. My dad helped me get the job, so it was kind of one of these situations where it wasn't my bag.
Right.
At the end of that, I started painting again. I had a show. I made a little money. I was just like a starving artist who knew a lot of stuff about what he liked but had no idea how to get it. And so I worked in a restaurant, and I was still sort of painting a little bit, but I was living in Venice Beach at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember,
what are we talking, 80s?
This is probably 91.
Right.
No,
Jane's Addiction Land.
90. This is 90. Actually 90. This is 90. That's right. Oh, yeah. I can actually date it based on like when I started making jewelry.
Yeah.
So I remember I was really hungry. I was living in a shitty apartment. It was $600 a month, and it was small. It was a closet, but it was a great location.
There's some crazy crime out there too at the time. That's like the movie Colors is all filmed about that, because what's weird about Venice back then is one street is surfers and white guys and everything, and the next street is straight gangs and crack, and then the next street is kind of tourists and going to the beach. It was just a fucking gamut down there.
It's so true. Yeah. It's funny you know that about that neighborhood.
Oh, yeah, because my buddy used to live there in a band, and they lived right across the street from that famous skateboard shop back in the day, which is on the main drag there or whatever.
Oh, Zephyr?
Yeah, whatever that store was. They lived right there in the band, and they just lived in this kind of fucking warehouse studio right there. And I remember one night they were lazy and didn't take their gear out of the van, and it was fucking gone, you know?
Oh, yeah. If you left a backpack or a jacket or something in a car, it was gone in the morning.
Yep.
Somebody would throw a battery through your window and take it.
Yep.
But it's funny. You look for an apartment at that age, you're looking for something that's cheap,
totally,
and kind of in the area that you want to spend your time, in the day and evening or whatever.
What drew you to Venice? The art of it, because I had a guy on the show, Magnus Walker, and he.
I met Magnus like shortly after that, actually.
Yeah, he was living out there and
That's right.
and making rock and roll clothes,
That's right.
and selling shit on the boardwalk.
Shit, I forgot the name of his company.
Serious
Clothing. Great name. Yeah. So I'm hungry, and I want to be an artist, but I got to eat.
Yeah.
And I got a rent to pay, and I'm walking around on the 3rd Street Promenade, which was a scary dump back then. There were no dinosaurs.
Oh, really? Back then?
It wasn't. Well, actually, you know what? There were dinosaurs right then. That was right about when they were sort of cleaning it up.
Right.
If I remember correctly. It was just because we spent time down there when I was a kid, and it was different.
Yeah, well, it's the old, back then they had Sears.
That's right.
Montgomery Wards.
Yeah,
it was like the big old, it was that indoor mall there you used to go into, remember? It was like really old.
Yeah, if I think back now, I think probably about 1989 or 90, it was probably getting pretty cleaned up.
Yeah.
So it was after lunch, I walked into a little hallway that was like a courtyard with a bunch of restaurants, tiny little Mexican deli, a deli, Mexican place, French fry, Benita's Fritas. Do you remember that place?
Yeah.
I spend like 7 of my last $28 on a sandwich. I'm eating my sandwich. I'm listening to the owner of the restaurant argue with the guy who's running a restaurant across there that apparently he owned, saying, "Where's this delivery boy?" Screaming, yelling. I don't know what happened, but I just got my nerve up and I said, "Hey, I'll deliver sandwiches during the week for you in exchange for, minimum wage and a meal a day."
Yeah.
And I figured, fuck it, I get by on one big sandwich a day, and that's no problem.
Hell yeah, I used to do it. Burrito, one giant burrito a day in
That's
San
right.
Fran.
So he said, no problem, come on down. So I showed up the next day on roller skates. He's like, all right, take your skates off, let's go. Here's your first delivery.
Yeah.
I just ignored him. I grabbed the bags, I looked at the paper, and I skated off.
Yeah.
And I came back really quickly. And he's like, "What's with the skates?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have a car. I'm gonna deliver. I'm gonna deliver them like this." And it worked out really well. Where I was going in office buildings and just skating past the guards with 2 bags of food and drinks and everything. It was brilliant. And
you getting tips?
I was getting tips. I was making, whatever,
$3.35 an hour.
No,
maybe
it was four something or 5 something. It was good, but I was getting tips. I was getting food. And everybody loved the skates. My legs looked great in those little dolphin shorts.
You wearing those in 90?
Hell no. But I did have some corduroy OPs, I think.
Yeah, those are dope.
The best were the brown and beige two-tone.
Yeah, two-tones were the ones, man. First I had brown, and then they came two-tone.
And then blue and dark blue two-tone.
Yeah, blue and red.
They were good.
Match the Vans,
So about 2-3 weeks of delivering sandwiches, and every day the owner's arguing with the chef who runs the restaurant across the way.
Yeah.
So the owner owns the Mexican restaurant and the deli, but he's got a chef who runs the deli spot, and it's sandwiches, turkey and roast beef, whatever. They are fighting every day. And I just ignore it. I'm just watching. It's interesting. And one day the owner looks at me when they're in a big row, and he says, "Hey, can you cook?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a really fucking good cook." He says, "Can you cook everything on that menu?"
Yeah.
I said, "Fuck yeah, I can cook everything on that menu."
Yeah.
He looks to the other guy and says, "Scotty, you're fired." He's like, "Tomorrow you're the cook. You're hired."
Wow.
So that guy...
You never cooked ever?
No. That guy Scotty, he got pissed. Apparently he was some hot shit chef who started Father's Office after that, or he was the chef at Father's Office after that.
Wow, really?
Anyway, he didn't like me much. Before that, he didn't like me. He really didn't like me. Now he threw his apron at my head. I grabbed the apron. I grabbed a menu.
Yeah.
I skated the fuck out of there. I went over to the most expensive restaurant around the corner, like Ocean Avenue Seafood.
Yeah.
Went into the bar. It's probably about 2:30, 3 o'clock. I literally skated into the place, sat at the bar. I was like, I need to talk to the chef.
Oh, shit.
Chef comes out. I tell him the story.
Yeah.
He can't believe the whole thing. He says, "Hang on." Comes back with a couple of drinks.
Yeah.
And a big, 3-ring binder.
Yeah.
And says, "All right, I'll help you."
Really?
Yeah, I had to make a Caesar dressing. I had to make an Italian dressing. I had to cook a turkey, cook a roast.
Yeah.
I had to do this every other day. I had to make one of those things.
Cook the meat for the sandwiches.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was like a real fucking deli.
And is the money going up?
Well, that's the thing. You'd expect the money to go up. The tips maybe went up a little bit, but I had a great time. I was back there. I was being creative. I was making sandwiches.
Yeah.
It's good. And I was getting fat. I was eating really well.
Yeah.
And I didn't get much of a bump. That guy he was a shit boss. He was cheap. I remember Christmas time he gave me a 20.
Oh.
In a card that he didn't even sign or anything. It was just in a card.
Oh.
I was so fucking chapped and I was so broke, and I fucking gave it back to him. I was like, "Clearly you need this more than me."
Wow.
And he got very upset at me at first, and then I just fucking walked away, and I was like, "Fuck, I needed that 20." And end of the day there was 100 in there for me. So I was like, yeah.
Yeah, man, bosses are fucking jive.
Well, I did that for a year, and I had a lot of interesting characters. I had some regulars, and I was tinkering. I was making metalwork, jewelry, and shit at night. And I was still painting.
What gets you into this metalwork? Because let's tell people real quick. You have an incredible company called Good Art, right?
That's right.
And you make incredible jewelry.
Thanks, man.
And it's how many years now in the game?
Well, this is like 1990 when I'm making sandwiches, and I started the business pretty much in August of that year.
Now, how do you what inspires you to make jewelry? Are you down at Venice Beach and there's people making stuff, or is it Chrome Hearts? Is it these companies? What inspired you to do it?
The first metal work that I was inspired to make, I saw some cat with big giant green earrings.
Yeah.
And these thick hoops in his ears, and I was like, that is fucking bad. That guy's a freak.
That shit like the gauge stuff, like
Exactly.
zero gauge and all that stuff, because that
Exactly.
was big during the 90s, because you got Jane's Addiction hits.
That's right.
And everybody's piercing everything. Lollapalooza comes around, and it's tribal tattoos.
That's right.
Monster piercings. I remember I got down to about a 3 gauge, and I was like, I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Leo Zuleta. Still got a shop there on La Brea.
What was the big company that
Gauntlet.
Gauntlet. Boom. San Francisco,
That's
Castro,
right.
Gauntlet, and they had one in LA too.
Oh fuck, you're gonna love this story.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm intrigued by these earrings.
Yeah.
I want a pair. Somehow I find out about the Gauntlet. They've got a place on Santa Monica in West Hollywood.
Yeah.
I drive down there. I go in. I say, hey, I'm looking around. I was like, hey, those big earrings there. I want a pair of those. And basically, I don't know anything about it, so I sound like an idiot, I guess, the way I'm asking.
Yeah.
And this guy talks through his nose at me about the holes in your ears aren't big enough, and
Yeah.
you're not gay enough, and there's only one, and you need to order another one. It's going to take 6 months to get here, and they're $80 each. And I was like, fuck you and everything you said. Like,
Yeah,
you could have been cool. And I left
yeah.
there. I was so bummed.
Wow, yeah.
So I said, if that's what those guys are about, fuck them.
Yeah.
So it's pretty funny actually looking back.
Yeah. You're just going into a full-blown, like, alternative lifestyle building, and you're like, I want these big things, and
Yeah.
you couldn't even put them in,
Well,
because
I
you
didn't
have
have
to
the-
stretch your ears.
Yeah, but I didn't know that, and
know.
and I didn't have the street cred that I didn't earn that.
Yeah.
I didn't earn that badge.
That's an interesting story that you say that, because the first time I wanted a tattoo, there was this guy, Goldfield, on Broadway in San Francisco, and he was the fucking guy. The best tattoos in the world. This is 80s, before tattooing now is totally different. But I remember going in just like that. Hey, man, I want to get a skull up here on my arm. He's like, get the fuck out of here. I was like, what? He goes, get out. And he used to have like a bat and shit. And you'd be like, wait a minute, I want to give you money and get a tattoo. He's like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And then later I was like, I'm getting a tattoo in there. And you got to figure out how to get in there,
It's true. It's like riding the evil bicycle. I don't know. I don't know what to say it's akin to, but it's like it's that trial by fire where you're certainly not cool enough to get in the door.
Yeah.
And anybody who's cool enough is not going to show you how to fucking ring the bell and get in anyway.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, they were tough.
Yeah.
So I'm driving home pissed off from the Gauntlet.
Yep.
And I remember there's this place called Bourget Brothers in Santa Monica, and they had it's like a construction place, construction materials and patio stones and sand and concrete. And there's this little jewelry section indoors there where they sell jewelry shit. And I was like, I can fucking make those. I made a toolbox before. I made all kinds of shit. I made a fucking tank for my fish. I can do this shit. So I go in there and I say, I need some big fucking wire. And the guy's like, okay, what do you mean? I was like, thick as a pencil.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, what material? I was like, I don't know, silver.
Yeah,
I just guessed.
Yeah.
Guy shows me some really thick silver wire. He's like, how much do you need? I was like, I don't know. How much is it?
Yeah.
So I buy like a, 18-inch piece of silver wire.
Was it sterling silver?
It was sterling silver wire, and it was probably, it was thick. It was like 6 gauge stuff. It was heavy duty. And I get it back to my shitty little apartment in Venice, and I don't know what to do, but I'm trying to like bend it and make it round, and then I figure out I can bend it around like a handle of a tool.
Yeah.
And then I figure out how to sort of clip it and cut it, and I spend all night basically like a fucking caveman in my kitchen.
Yeah.
Filing this shit down and making it look like the earrings that dude had that I saw a month earlier that I couldn't get out of my head.
Wow.
So I made these things, and I had enough for like 5 of them, and they were very crude, but I took a pair of them, 2 of them, and I poked a fucking hole in my ear with like another piece that I'd sharpened.
Oh.
And I just kept going, and it was the ugliest fucking mess. It was like a scene out of Carrie.
Yeah. But
but I got them in there.
Ah.
But when
were you freezing your ear?
I did. I used ice. I used some ice, but the ice wasn't enough because it was like it was a horrible fucking bloody mess. But I didn't care. I had to have these. You set your mind on it and you're going. And I was young enough that I didn't, there's no fucking Google back then.
Nope, there's not.
Anyway, in the end, I made this shit that was in my ear and I fucking loved it and I was so proud and I didn't give a fuck what anybody thought. And by the time the shit healed up 6 years later, it was probably a couple of weeks where they were still like red as a beet. By the time they healed up though, I was so happy about it, and everywhere I went, people were like, "Whoa, where'd you get these?" And I was like, "Well, I made them." And I decided, well, I was going to be an asshole like that fucking guy at the gauntlet.
Yeah.
And so I said, "Well, I'll fucking make you a pair." And so it happened a little organically like that. One night I stayed up. I learned about this metal called niobium. I like just kept doing all this research. I stayed up late and I made a whole pile of these earrings. I mean, like all night long. I was just having so much fun making them.
Yeah.
I go into work a little early on the promenade, and I walk up to the other end of the promenade, and there's a store there called Nana.
I remember it.
Nana, if you remember, they were the ones that brought Doc Martens in.
Same as San Fran, had it on Haight Street.
It's the coolest store ever.
It's
the coolest store I knew about.
Yeah.
I walked in with a pile of these earrings, and I said, "Hey, I made these, and everywhere I go, the kids are screaming for them." And this chick was so cool, and she's like, "Wow, these are great. I've seen these around."
Yeah.
I was like, "Great. Well, I made them. You want to buy them?" She said, "Yeah." So that was my first sale, $550.
Wow!
And
are you still buying the silver at the time at that hardware store?
I found a place in Arizona called New Mexico, Arizona. Shit, I just lost track of where they were. Somewhere in the Midwest there,
right.
Or in the West there. A place called Reactive Metals Studios, and they specialized in this other metal called niobium. Oh, there's one more great twist you'll love. So. While I'm working at the sandwich shop, one of my regulars was a graphic designer. Yeah. And she saw my painting. She saw my earrings. She saw my little pendants that I made. She said, "You need a business card." I was like, "What do I need a business card for? I'm not a businessman." She's like, "You need a business card." I said, "All right, great." She's like, "Well, I want to do that for you. You make me these great sandwiches every day. I'll make you a business card. What do you want on it?" I said, "Just put Josh."
Yeah.
She's like, "No, that's stupid." I was like, "All right, put Josh Warner." She's like, "Come on, you need some more. You need some information on there." And I said, "Well, put this on there. Put good art, and then at the bottom, Josh Warner, and then I didn't have a cell phone. Put my home phone number on it or whatever it was on there." So she, maybe I did have a cell phone then. Shit, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's back at $1 in a minute.
I know. That's all it said. It said good art, Josh Warner, and
you came up with a name right then, huh?
Well, she said your art's so good. I was like, "Yeah, thanks. It is pretty good art, huh?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Put that on the card." She's like,
Good
"That's
art.
stupid. You can't put good art on there." I was like, "Well, come on. It's not fucking, that's what it is. I don't want to, I don't want to describe it anymore. It's good and it's art and there you go." Anyway, I'm up at Nana and this chick says, "Okay, well, how much are these?" And I had no idea. I worked all night long. I make $350 a week.
Yeah.
So I just threw out a number. I said, $550 for the whole pile.
Yeah.
She said, "Okay, great. I'll get you a check. Do you have a business card?" I was like, I was so like shocked that she said yes.
Yeah.
And then I said, "Why? Yes, I do have a business card right here." And I reach into my wallet, my little OP Velcro wallet.
Yeah.
And I pull out a business card and I hand it to her, and she goes in the back. She comes back out and hands me a check, and the check says, "Good Art Company, $550," and then earrings in the memo, and hands that to me. And I'm like flipping out. I can't believe it. This is so incredible. There's more money than I make in a week, and I did it at night, having fun in my kitchen in my shitty little apartment.
Yeah.
I walked right down. I told the guy who owned that restaurant, Jerry was his name, I just remembered.
Yeah.
I said, "Yo, I quit."
Yeah, Jerry, eat a dick.
Yeah, I'll teach somebody how to. I'll give you a couple of weeks and teach somebody how to like do what I do, but I'm done. And he's like, "What are you talking about? You're never going to get a better job." I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Yeah.
This was like a stepping stone to a stepping stone.
Yeah.
This was nothing. And I pull
First
out my
stop
check.
on a skip rock.
That's right. I show him like a check. I was like, "You see this? I did this having fun. I'm fucking done working for you.
Wow.
It was a great feeling. And then it was just horrible after that for years. It was just terrible struggle. But I loved it. It was my own struggle, so it was good.
So you've been making jewelry. How many years is that now?
That was 1990, so it's like 25 years. 26. This will be the 26th year.
At what? So you're doing some earrings and stuff. At what point do you start making jewelry like what you're making now? Because
it's totally different stuff. So that stuff, I the more I learned, the more I realized that to make the jewelry for the body piercing, it was more like machining rather than casting, because you're using metals
already formed.
Yeah, and you're using metals that are good to go in the body, or better to go in the body. You're using like these titanium blends, 6Al, 4V, that stuff that it's hypoallergenic, and using stainless steels that are cool for implants. So I just jumped head first in. Fortunately, there weren't too many other people doing what I was doing, so it wasn't like I just woke up one day and said, "Hey, I'm a doctor."
Yeah.
It was like we were all sort of learning to do it around the same time. There were a few companies. And then
what was that big fucking cult dude, man, that passed away? And he was like really the dude that was making the shit in the 80s and 90s. This stuff sells for big money now. He's got a name. It's his name. It was like Bill Wall worked for him or whatever early on.
Oh, Gabor.
Yeah, Gabor.
Yeah.
Now, was that guy the first dude that was really doing kind of this rock and roll silver stuff? Because all of a sudden you start seeing Billy Idol.
Yeah.
You start seeing Nikki Sixx wore a lot of stuff. Tommy Lee.
That's right.
Cool fucking.
It was those big happy laughing skulls.
Yeah. And that shit was, I mean, had a cult following, boy. Like, especially in Japan, they go, "Oh, Gabor," and it'd be worth a fortune. I guess he died. I don't know what from, but all of a sudden,
sure. And anybody who worked with him or was connected to him was sort of by association cool as fuck now.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true.
Was that guy around when you were working on stuff?
He was around and doing his thing, and I was not involved in that scene, but I remember he was around because there were also like these cats, some of them have become famous, and I don't remember their names, but these guys who'd worked with glass and ceramics, and there were other metal artists and sculptors, and some of there was one cat who became like pretty big into Porsches, not Magnus.
Yeah.
Another dude. The scene in Venice where I lived became where I worked, and you're making shit all day and night, but when you go out and walk around, you're sort of around all the other artists doing stuff. It's different these days. It was more communal then.
Right.
It was less competitive, and it was more.
Well,
about
there wasn't big
interest.
money. There wasn't big money in it like there is now, right?
No, I think it was a different. Yeah, you're right. The money wasn't a big motivation. I think quite the same way as not living off the grid. What's the term? Like you're just doing it your own way. You know?
Yeah. You're just fucking like artist colony
the
shit.
motivation was to sort of do your own thing rather than make a ton of money. So
especially with all those guys back then, the leather dudes, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like fucking what's his name from that makes the whip stitch jackets and shit. Warren.
Oh,
what's his name? Anyway, you know those kind of
Jerry Van Amberg.
all that stuff. You know,
is that the dude you're thinking of?
All those kind of guys
He
are
is
making
cool as
stuff.
hell.
You know, badass leather.
Yeah.
And you have guys making silver, and you got guys making boots. You
Yeah.
know, so and it's all kind of like for life now. You know, like
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought of Gabor until like I remember when I first moved to LA. 12, 13 years, whatever, 14 years ago, you start to hear about stuff. Like you're into something, let's say. You go, man, I love motorcycle boots.
Right.
And you just get one at the Wasteland. So
Right.
here we go, got some fucking engineer boots, and you wear those for a while, and then a guy goes, yeah, you know what you need is Westco.
Right.
And then you're like, you find out about stuff.
But usually it's some cat walks by with some Red Wings. And you're like, those are cool. He's like, oh, you don't know what Red Wings?
Yeah.
And then you get your Red Wings, and
Yeah.
then they wear out in about a year.
Yeah.
And
It's
then you learn about something like a Westco.
You really learn about stuff. I think I have from LA. You know, like LA is such a multicultural scene. It's rock and roll. It's surf. It's
yeah, but that's a
motorcycle.
fine line, right? Because half the cats they're telling you because they want to do you a favor.
Yeah.
And then there's also the whole side of it, like you don't know about Westco. What's the matter with you?
Yeah. Well, there's the ego thing too.
Yeah.
I've been through that too. You know, like somebody will be like, "Oh, I got a jacket like that," and I'll be like, "No."
No, you don't.
You don't have a jacket like that. You know, it's just a thing, you know, and then you're going, God, I'm being a dick, you know? So now I'm not a dick like that anymore, because that's more of kind of like, you don't want people to know about shit because you don't want everybody to look like you. But now I'm like, I want these companies around. So I'm like, hey man, that's why I like having like you on, or Chris, or Roland Sands, who makes choppers, or anybody that makes shit that I fucking love. If I don't spread the word and people spread the word, they go away. Yeah. You know, I mean, China just pumps out stuff, you know, for $1. You know what I mean? And you're like, and people always go like, man, you paid that for that. I had a guy 2 days ago. Here's a fucking funny thing. And he said, yeah, I can't believe you would spend that amount of money on a jacket. What a sucker. And I was like, I bet this guy has like 9 shit jackets that equal up to one good jacket in his closet. You know what I mean? You get one good jacket and wear it for life.
Yeah.
And it just, like you and I love like leather jackets.
Yeah.
And my dream is always to wear one jacket till it's completely like the ones we buy.
That's right. So that when you're dead, somebody just reveres you so much.
Somebody goes, hey, that
somebody
guy
loved this jacket. Yeah, that guy really made it perfect for me. Thank you.
But that stuff is quality, is the point I'm trying to say, you know, is great quality shit is worth the money, you know, like I can't believe, to me, how inexpensive Westco boots are.
Yeah.
You know, for what you get.
Yeah, but don't you think it comes from the viewpoint of, why are you making those? Are you setting out to make the best boot in the world? Are you setting out to make a shit ton of money making a boot that looks really good?
Yeah.
And when you look at something like Westco, they're born out of like a need for you to keep your feet protected while you're logging for 6 days in the
Totally. It's a fluke, you know what I mean? They want to make the best logger boot, and then later on it becomes the best boot for motorcycles.
Yeah.
And then it becomes just the best boot, you know? But my point is, your jewelry is really incredible. I love like the latch thing.
Yeah, but I make that all that starts out.
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way.
Yeah.
And then know this, it's awesome making money selling the stuff.
Yeah.
But before I can make money selling anything, I know it's got to, if my name's on it, it's got to be something that I'm proud of, that works well.
Right.
And I love this shit. So first I gotta make something I love, and I gotta make something that works and hits. I don't even know how to describe this at this point. Basically, there's a lot of me in everything. Like there's a lot of my
personality.
Yeah, my personality, my integrity. I feel horrible when something fails, you know, and it happens at least 3 times a year.
Really?
Which is really fucking low. That was a joke.
No, but I mean, what kind of fail on the jewelry? A latch?
Yeah, something goes wrong. But repair. You know, whatever. Somebody uses the shit out of it. The last time I repaired one of these bracelets, some cat took a spill up in Portland on a bicycle.
Oh, bicycle.
And he wiped out so hard, and it just ripped part of the clasp off, and train track, and big fucking mess.
Wow.
But my point is, I'm trying to make things that are going to outlive me and whoever buys it. And I always feel like for the good stuff, whatever it is, a watch or something I made, please, that the guy who gets it and uses it is really just a custodian for it. He's just he's just holding on to it and digging it while he's around, and then someday later somebody else is going to get it. He's going to die, or he's going to lose it,
right?
Or someone's going to swipe it, and then there's like another generation of people who enjoy it. And I look at it. I was talking with my buddy Grant about these motorcycles, these old Harleys.
Yeah.
And he's got this incredible footage of these cats racing these things, these hill climbs, and through mud and over jumps, and you go to a museum or whatever, and you see one of these pretty old 70-year-old Harleys, and you're like, oh, it's so pretty,
mint,
so nice and beautiful. And then you see the footage of these guys beating the shit out of these things.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and he uses his bikes like that, like over jumps and races these tank shifts, and it's so fucking cool because the good stuff, it not just looks good, it was built well, and it was made to endure. And you can flog an 80-year-old or a 70-year-old, 80-year-old bike, I think, in a lot of cases, a lot harder than you can something that was made in the last decade.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, there wasn't as many made. So, you know, the guy's hand welding those wishbone frames. You know what I mean? He's just there. It's not like 7,000 an hour.
But that's the good stuff,
That's
right?
the good stuff.
The good stuff's made well.
Yeah.
And it's not made to I think there's a planned obsolescence in every fucking cell phone, blender, and car made in the last 3 decades. And everything that I tend to love, most of the stuff I tend to love, it's either old shit or it's new shit that was made really well.
Yeah.
So when I make stuff, I try and put out there in the world the stuff I want to see. I'm in the game of aesthetics. You know, I make fucking keychains.
Yeah.
And I want them to be the keychain that when you come in and you throw your shit on the table, you're like, fuck yeah, that's my keychain, dog.
Yeah, the keychain is dope. Now, back up real quick here. At what point do you switch into this style of jewelry? What do you think it is? I think it's kind of it's rock and roll, it's motorcycle. What kind of guy? You know, I mean, when we first start seeing it in the 80s, like I said, I start seeing Nikki Sixx wearing radical stuff. Tommy Lee, Slash, guys like that. You're seeing this Billy Idol,
True,
key dudes, but
even older than that though, right? Like a lot of the stuff is like punk holdover. If you look at the stores like Poser and Nana,
yeah,
they were carrying these spiked bracelets that you
That's
see
different,
Steve
though.
Jones wearing. Like
I know that, but I'm saying this kind of like this style of sterling silver.
This is when it all sort of became refined,
Right.
But I think it's coming out of that. I think a lot of it probably does come out of that punk era. Wallet chains, first wallet chains certainly weren't silver or gold. They were
just a dog chain.
It was a dog
It was
chain.
dog chain. I remember.
That's right.
And you just had it because you didn't want you to get pickpocketed.
Yeah,
you know?
could get it. You could get it on the rack in the hardware store where they had the bolt cutters there, and you clip whatever length you want.
That's what I did.
And you go find a little piece of hardware and a little brass clasp.
Yeah, and you cut your fucking wallet and you put that brass grommet in there.
That's right.
Boom, you had a wallet chain.
Well,
you didn't buy it at fucking
No.
Hot Topic. You had to fucking make that.
That's right.
I remember my buddy, man, he actually got the real big fucking chain.
Yeah.
The big shit. And
Yeah.
he made a wallet chain with the giant bike chain, the one that you would like lock a motorcycle up with.
Yeah.
And that was his wallet chain. And he could take that off and just beat a dude, like he was like a bouncer at this bar. That was his wallet chain. It was ridiculous, but it looked cool. But people were way into wallet chains, man. And that was a big, big fucking market, a wallet chain,
Yeah, but but I don't think originally you'd be like, hey man, that's nice jewelry you're wearing there.
No. You never even noticed it. It was just kind of a biker thing. Right. Wallet chains were a biker thing.
Yeah.
I don't even wear a wallet now because they just fuck my back up, But I love wallet chains.
Yeah, if I'm gonna sit for more than 5 minutes, I always take it out.
Look at it.
I take it out. But I like that big wallet. I love it, and I love the chain. I love the swagger of that.
Yeah.
But I definitely can't sit on it in the car.
No.
For too long.
No.
But there was a definite and distinct time where I said, so we're making jewelry. I'm making this body jewelry. I'm making this piercing shit, and I'm having fun. And I've got help now. I've got a couple friends working for me, and hired some more people. And we're cooking.
So you're selling some shit.
We're selling it. We're cooking along. I put a little ad in a tattoo magazine, and it said body piercing jewelry and my phone number. And I get calls all through the fucking night. I remember when the calls started coming in, I'd answer the phone at 3 a.m. I'd say, "Where the fuck are you that you're calling me at 3 a.m?"
Yeah.
I was so upset. Which, looking back now, I was a real asshole to do that.
It's money.
It's money, and
money.
and some of them were calling for Europe. Wherever. Anyway, but calls came in at all hours, and I was cooking. I was selling this stuff, and then a few blocks later, or a few months later, a few blocks over from my house, I got a little storefront on Pier Avenue next to the Novel Cafe. It was sort of like the border of Santa Monica and Venice, and I opened a little shop.
Wow.
And I made shit in the back, and I sold it in the front.
Wow.
And then hired a few more people. And it was very organic. There was no playbook. It just, I need more room, and I'll go rent a little spot. It grew and grew. Within about a year and a half or two, I was selling back to the same fucking guy who was a dick at the Gauntlet.
Really?
And selling back to the Gauntlet, and they became like a really big account for us for a while. It was good. But, you got to look at this stuff from a different standpoint than aesthetics. For me, I was into, I was into things that were cool, mechanical stuff, slot machines and gears and motors and motorcycles. And I liked stuff that had like a mechanical vibe to it. And the piercing stuff I fell into because I could make shit, and I could pay the rent by making shit, and the more money comes in, the more shit I could make. And it was this sort of, it was this fun sort of thing. But I realized after not too many years, when some cat walked in from Korea with a suitcase, and he opened it up, and it's full of shit, all packaged up. And he says, anything in here? I can't remember. It was like $1 or $2 or whatever. And I said, shit, man, there's nothing, the shit we're making, there's nothing that we can make that is going to come in less than $5 our cost to make it. So I said, well, this is on the decline. And then the other side
and
of it
Lollapalooza was dying, and that piercing, and that was all going away.
I think it had sort of, this is about the point where it still hadn't peaked, so it was still on its way up. There was still quite a bit. But after a number of years of doing it, the other thing I realized was there's only so many shapes of shit you can put through a fucking hole in your body.
And it's a hoop or a bar.
Yeah, right. Generally, yeah. I mean, I don't want to offend anybody who's gotten super fucking creative since then, but let's be honest. You got either a hole or a hole and an exit hole.
Yeah.
And it's not a whole lot more complicated than that. And so for me, my end of it wasn't that I was really into hanging from nipples from the ceiling and stretching and all that. Yeah, I wasn't into all of that. What I was into was creating stuff, making stuff, and the metal work really fucking spoke to me. I loved working with the metal. So by the time we sort of peaked, we had a couple of big giant lathes and all kinds of tools and 53 staff, and we're making tons of shit, and things are cooking. And I said that, you know what, there's no more job for me here really, because my end is
creative part's over.
The creative part's over, and I'm not into. I didn't aspire to have a machine shop. I aspired to like come up with an idea and then fucking make it. Yeah. That was my end of it. So I sort of phased myself out really quickly and left the whole machine running. And Rach and I moved to Hollywood, and because we couldn't afford a fucking house in Venice.
Yeah.
So it was time to buy a house. We bought a house in the hills. It was cheap.
It's like an old
church.
school, right?
It's an old church.
Yeah. I used to drive by it every day. I'd be like, man, that place is dope.
That's what I used to say, but I thought I was the only one.
No, because I'm that kind of guy that's like, you look at something, outside the box, you go, you know, that's fucking cool inside. It's just fucking whatever, It was an old church.
It was an old church.
Wow, and it's definitely all sectioned off weird, okay, here's the upstairs, then you got to go down this part here, and you're out of this section. But
it's a cool pad, and I knew we could turn it into something fun. So when we were up there, it was kind of it was not just where we lived. I turned that big garage into like a studio,
right? And
started sort of making shit that I liked, and
jewelry like that you're making now.
Exactly. And in the beginning, I couldn't do casting. I really just had like wax, and I was sort of learning to carve, and I was going to see people who knew about this stuff.
Yeah.
Back then, this is sort of pre like Google it all. You, if you wanted to learn something, you'd ask somebody, or you just fucking kick rocks until you figured it out.
You got to go ask them, and then maybe apprentice under them, right?
Yeah, it was that kind of vibe. Because a lot of people
don't just want to tell you how it fucking's done, right?
It's true. So along the way, I think I ate a lot of shit learning.
How do you do it? Is it it's not a sand cast, it's a wax cast?
It's the same thing, essentially.
Like, what do you do? Do you come up with a design and you carve it into the wax? Is that how you do it? And then you pour the first one, and that's your like ground zero?
Sort of, yeah. You want to make a master, and the master's wax or wood. Or nowadays, you can 3D print a piece,
right? Or
use all of those together. We use a lot of different elements together to create new pieces.
Yeah. Do you carve into the wax what it's going to look like?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a hard carving wax that we use. It's sort of like carving into wood,
right?
Except that if you make a mistake, you can just take a lighter and drip some on and build it back up. But You use wood carving tools, and you use the like little dentist drills, these flexible shaft tools.
And come up with a design.
Yeah. Once you've got the design, now to be able to repeat it, you got to make a mold. So we make a mold of that piece.
Rubber?
We actually use a platinum-based silicone. It's kind of a cool.
I've seen it, yeah. And you pour it into there.
That's right. It's a room temperature vulcanization. It's called vulcanization, is where you take, you make rubber into tires.
Like masks and shit too, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Same kind of shit. So we use a silicone mold, and when the mold cures, we cut it open, we pull that masterpiece out, throw it in a box, put it in the safe. You don't need that again until you need to make another mold.
Right.
So now you've got this negative space of what you had. You close the mold back up. You force wax in there through one of those machines that you saw. We fill it with wax.
Yeah.
When that cools, we put that into a flask. We build a tree, it's called, with a bunch of sort of pieces coming off.
Yeah.
And we put that into a flask of basically like a plaster of Paris made from this cool little plaster gypsum shit. It's called investment material. You then put that into a oven to burn out the wax. You actually steam it out, but you get rid of the wax. So now you've gone from a master to a mold. Now from a mold, you make another piece that you can repeat. You then burn that out of the flask, so you've got another negative space, and the audience is falling asleep.
No, but I understand, because I'm asking because it's a lot of fucking process.
There's a lot of steps, and then in the end, you take that plaster mold, and you essentially fill that with metal.
Silver. Yeah,
you fill that with silver. When that cools, you've got something that looks close to your master, but a couple of generations further down the line, so it's a little smaller, and the details aren't quite as sharp. And then you work on that, and that's where jewelry making really begins.
How many times can you use the master before you got to make a new one? Because they kind of burn up, right? They wear out.
Well, the master, typically it's the mold that's going to wear out, and a master is good for a lifetime.
Oh, got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Now, you start making the weird thing I think about jewelry designing, and there's a lot of great guys out there. I love a lot of guys that are doing stuff. Is it really comes down to a design, a thing that people are going to like. I mean, you can only do so many skull rings. You know what I mean? I mean, Crazy Pig, they made that Keith Richards skull ring, and
No, they didn't.
I thought they made it.
As far as I know.
I thought it was Crazy Pig.
I don't think so. It was you can Google it.
Yeah, maybe we'll Google it. Yeah,
I can't remember the name. It's like they're like, it sounds like Seals and Crofts or
really?
Shields and Yarnell. It's like two cats, but they made one apparently, and then they like destroyed it, and then they made like a new generation of it. I don't think it was that company. But, but who?
Well,
who
whoever.
knows?
But my point is, you can only do so many skull rings.
Sure, and certain people get known for certain things. Maybe. I don't know a lot about Crazy Pig, but I think they're maybe known for the skull rings and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And of course.
Some people got an amazing wallet chain.
And Chrome Hearts has their crosses.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true. And I think it's a tough thing in doing what I do to stand out.
Quartz and Hackett.
There you go.
Thank you, man. Yeah. Thank you. I was wrong. It's just funny because I remember
Shields and Yarnell.
Yeah. I always thought it was just Crazy Pig. Forever, it's just so.
Well, it's probably really good for them.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I got one of those Keith Richards rings.
Yeah. So, how do you make a lot of stuff and you go, this isn't hitting? I got to get something, because your main thing seems to be the flower, right? The
rosette, yeah.
The rosette. What is that from?
That school I was in Montana. There was a time we took a couple of weeks. We hiked through. England, Scotland, Wales.
Really?
Yeah, like staying in youth hostels, exploring like
a field trip?
It was a field trip to England. It was or to the UK. It was fucking brilliant. And I sort of sketched that thing the whole time I was there. Years later, when I was messing with wax, I'm doodling that, and I'm thinking, what am I gonna do in the wax? And eventually, that's how it came out.
Wow. So because that's your signature piece, right?
For sure. But there's probably a half a dozen motifs that run through the line. I think of it sort of like there's two kinds of pieces I make. There's the thing that is just very purely my own aesthetic, the thing that I love, that I want to see, that I think I can do better than anybody else, and so I make that thing.
Right.
And then three times a year, I do something that's sort of collaborative or for somebody else or with somebody else.
Right.
And sometimes it is skulls. I do a lot of skull stuff. I like doing skull stuff, but I didn't start out doing the skull stuff because I felt like, well, there's already that shit out there.
Yeah, right. It's like podcasting. You know what I mean? It's like you got to find your fucking niche. You know. Sure, you could do a skull, but maybe it's.
Oh, I did a famous skull ring. I did the skull ring for the Expendables movie. I made that for Sly.
Wow, I remember that. That's right. Wow, that's so cool.
That's right.
Does he hit you up and stuff and wear that stuff?
Yeah, he's got a good collection.
I remember there was one guy, over the years I was obsessed with this jewelry, and there was one guy, he lived over by the Burbank airport, and he made a skull with a squished like head. Like kind of a squished head. It was like a big skull. It was called like Big Skull. It was a giant ring, and it was just squished though. And I was like, oh, this is the guy. You know, it's just like all different guys. But
I think that's what you got to do though. You got to look as a guy who makes stuff. My favorite thing is to make something that I want, that I like, that I say, well, that's the fucking way it should be. And then someone walks into the room and looks at it and they're like, oh, shit, that's the way that should be. That's the best.
Yeah.
But also as a guy who makes stuff, I've got to do that all the time, whether or not somebody else likes it. Like I got to go with what I dig.
Yeah.
And then as a consumer, you gotta go with what moves you. You know, there are people who come in and they can't stop showing me their fucking something or other that some other cat made, and I'm like, that's fucking great, okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
But that's their thing, and that's fine. I think when you're dealing in aesthetics, it's a really good thing that not everybody likes the same thing, right?
Well, thank God. You know, I mean, that's like with comedy.
Yeah.
If everybody was one style, like a one-liner,
that's right.
You would just be like, oh, I seen 10 one-liners, you know. So you need all different. It's funny. And there's always something I always think is funny when people say this to me. Somebody said this to me just recently again, and I've heard it all my life. Ah, man, you can get away with that, but I can't really get away with that. And you know what?
I feel like I hear that a lot too.
I can't fucking stand when people say that, because what you're saying is you're giving into some kind of rules around your society. Like you're afraid someone's going to go like, that's not you. And what is you? It's whatever you fucking put on your body or smoke or drink or haircut or anything, you know? That's you. So
that's true, but that's their consideration.
No, I get it.
That's their
But I'm
thing
saying take a chance and live outside the box a little bit.
Let's be honest. A lot of people really shouldn't.
I know. I know, but I'm just saying it's funny when people say that but then when they walk around in a suit and tie, I'm like, I really can't get away with that. I mean,
it's true.
I don't
it's
want
true.
to.
You know,
I get it.
I look at this. It's funny because talking to you, I always want to make sure I'm not just answering questions. I'm telling a story.
Yeah.
And I look sometimes at a more broad view of all of it. And for me, I think art is communication, right?
Yeah.
So successful art is art that communicates and gets your point across, whatever it is. Photography, you know, I'm really into photography. If somebody looks at a photo that I took and they say, wow, it's fucking great, or it takes me there, or whatever, that's successful, it's really good. Somebody looks at a photo and they're like, oh yeah, and then they turn their head, you're like, well, that was a fucking fail. So when I'm making my jewelry, we're making leather goods, we're making stuff that people are going to use every day. Yeah. The greatest validation of that is when it communicates to such a degree that somebody says, well, I want to use that wallet every day, or I'm going to use that, or this wallet chain makes me so happy, this bracelet, this ring, whatever it is. When it becomes their thing and it's no longer mine, we sold it and it now is incorporated into their life, that is the greatest validation. The thing is, I never made it for that. I never made it for that at all. I made it originally because I wanted, most of the time it's a really selfish thing. I just wanted a cool chain or a bracelet. I wanted to make my own shit.
You can't find the shit you're into. You got to make it.
That's right. And I look at everything like that. I look at anything in the world and I'm like, that's fucking perfect, or gotta be perfect if it just, you know, so I always have that sort of like, I could tinker or make it better somehow viewpoint on a lot of things. And a lot of things I make come out of that, of course. You know, there was no need to make another fucking cross.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's seen a million silver crosses, but God, finally I was like, you know what? Fuck it. All right, I'm going to make a really good cross or skull. Or
Yeah.
I didn't invent the fucking cross or the skull, and nobody who you know today did.
Yeah.
But some people are shit at it and some people are good at it. So the validation is when somebody spends their hard-earned money on something you made and it's theirs and they love it and it creates an effect on them. That's the fucking best.
It really is.
But that's not what you can shoot for if you want to achieve that. For me anyway, that's nowhere near the equation. What's near the equation, what is the equation is it's going to fucking look good, it's going to function well, it's going to be fun to use. I'm going to love it, I'm going to feel proud of it. I'm going to enjoy it myself. And I think anybody who creates big effects in life has to have a fairly pure intention with what they set out to do before they become successful at doing it. And I don't think comedy's any fucking different, because like if all you're doing is pandering to the crowd for a fucking chuckle,
totally,
they're going to forget you.
You're so right. You're so right.
And the comics who I always remember and who I always think about, you know, their fucking one-liners fit into my life, and they pop up during my daily life, and I remember like some little thing somebody said in a set, you know, whatever it is.
Absolutely, man.
So I think everything's like that. You have like a lot of opposite stuff that I have in your daily life.
Yeah.
That I don't know what the lesson is, but there's something to learn in there. But I like being around you specifically because of that kind of stuff. And for the one reason that I don't have to change who I am at all. But you and I actually have the same viewpoints and affinities on a lot of things, not just leather jackets and metal work and motorcycles. I mean, just on, it's not arriving, it's fucking getting there, and the quality of the journey in life and creating good effects. Because one thing I do know about you is that when you're up on stage, your whole thing is the communication and bringing everybody in.
Yeah.
And when we went to your birthday bash, your 60th birthday party, holy
50th, bitch, not 60th.
it was amazing. And then the comedy was brilliant. It was so fun. But something happened when you took the mic and started singing.
Yeah.
Holy shit, man. It was so good. And our group that was there, we just had the best time watching you perform. So I kind of don't think it matters, music or comedy or whatever it is. You have that viewpoint in life that you want to like bring people in, tell a story in some way and lift their spirits. And I try and do it with a lot less fucking words. I try and do it with what I do, but it's something I totally admire about you.
I'm glad you did the show, man. Let's tell everybody.
What show?
This one here.
I don't understand.
Let's tell everyone where we find you. Goodart.com?
So the company's called Good Art. Technically, it's Good Art Hollywood, and Hollywood is spelled HLYWD. That's the thing, because we started it at our house up there. We started doing this part of the jewelry. You can go to goodart.com. You can find us on Instagram at Josh Warner or Good Art Hollywood, HLYWD on Instagram. Yeah. And yeah, check it out. I make the best shit that you might not have seen.
Yeah, I love it. It's good stuff. One quick question before you go. My favorite is 24 karat gold because it has almost a brass look when it gets old and dirty. Yeah. Is that just too soft? A reason people don't use it?
It's used a lot as fine wire braided because there's strength in braiding it.
Right.
But you'd probably like 22 karat. We use mostly 22 karat.
Well, it's a little too shiny to me compared to that. There's something about 24 karat gold. I know a guy that has a skull ring, and it's just so old, and it's 24.
Yeah.
And he specifically says 24 every time, and you could tell it looks way different. It looks like brass.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I like it too. I just don't use it. I certainly can.
It's just too soft?
Yeah, here's the big gold myth. So pure gold is 24 karat. It's an element.
It's pure gold.
Yeah, it's pure. It's all gold. Now, if you go into a shop and you see something that says 10 karat, you see something that says 12 karat. How about this is easy math? That means that piece that looks like gold and they're calling it gold and says 12 karat, it's half gold and it's half some other metal that is certainly not as expensive as gold. It's some fucking filler, whatever.
Right.
So 14 karat puts you just slightly above half.
Yep.
18 karat gets you in the realm of a pretty good metal because it's about 75%. Actually, it's exactly 75% gold and 25% some other alloying metal.
Yep.
Now, typically the alloying metal is used to color the gold, The gold is gold, that color gold, that orangey, carroty kind of color. That's the natural color. So if you want to make gold into white, you have a better chance with like a 14 karat or like half gold by using an alloying metal that's white. Right. A lot of times those are kind of crappy metals, and it's typically, it's like cutting coke. Okay, so you really want that pure shit. You can't handle the pure shit.
Yeah.
But 18 carats at 75%. We use 22 karat if it's going to be yellow, because I like the color. Cougarans are actually made out of they're 22 karat gold, and they're really hard and strong. Still softer than the 18 karat, but it's got that look that's close to 24.
Right.
And if you want to spend the money, we'll do it out of 24.
Is it too soft though?
No, I mean it's soft. It dings and dents, but it's not too soft. No, it depends what you're making. You don't want to make something so thin, but a lot of the stuff we do, we kind of overbuild it anyway for just for that.
So, like, if you're getting a Rolex in white gold, it's really kind of shitty gold then.
No, not necessarily. Usually, if you're getting a Rolex in white gold, it's going to be out of 18 karat gold. And interestingly enough, the white gold alloys are typically the hardest.
Oh wow!
Because they can use some pretty hard white metals in there. So I think if you get a Rolex, it's going to be 18 karat. I think almost always it's going to be 18 karat.
Even the yellow gold.
I think so.
Right.
I'm pretty sure.
Right.
I'm not an expert.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do think I think it's usually 18 karat, and it's going to be hard enough. It'll ding or dent, but the white's going to be harder than the yellow most of the time.
Where do you buy your gold? Wholesalers?
Well, yeah, you buy
downtown?
It based on a little east of downtown. We buy it from a factory where they make it. It's not glamorous like big gold bars coming in on a cart with armed guards. It comes in like a little. They come in these 1 kilo jars
Cubes.
that are made out of plastic with a plastic lid, and it looks like a bunch of BBs.
Oh wow!
It's called casting grain. It's not like this big romantic thing with
It's not a bar you melt down and it becomes your skull ring.
No, because in that jar it looks like BBs, and that's pure gold. It's like 4 nines pure.
Wow!
So we take that and then we mix it with a tiny bit of copper to make it 22 karat, and it makes the metal a little fluid. It makes it a little more prone to bending rather than cracking.
Yeah.
We have a whole process afterwards where we do like a heat hardening process on the metal that sort of aligns the molecules and makes it so it doesn't crack. You were asking if it's basically like sand casting.
Yeah.
Really, the whole premise of casting, the whole idea is you make a void and you pour a molten metal. You pour a liquid metal into the void. You let it cool, and that's it. So you take a box full of sand, you press your hand in it, and then you pour some silver or gold into that hand impression, let it cool, and you've got your hand.
Yep.
That hasn't changed. The high technology is doing that in a chamber where one end is pressurized to push the metal in, the other end is a vacuum. It's totally sealed off from oxygen or any kind of air that can get in there and cause porosity. So you're using gases like nitrogen to force the metal in. But the essence is the same. It's almost like a tire from like 85 years ago versus a tire today. Well, today's tire is better, but that other one was probably pretty fucking round.
Yeah.
So,
same thing. Held air and rolled down the road.
So in 5,000 years of casting, there's not huge advances that have changed it. You're melting the metal and you're putting it into a form.
Yeah.
The technology comes in like eliminating oxygen and things like that. So we've gotten to the point now where over the last like 5-6 years, we've introduced some incredible technologies, and I've watched designs that I used to like look even better to me because they function better, or my tolerances are closer. The quality of the product's better. Yeah. So that's the only reason that we use technology, is just to make better shit.
Yeah, like those new watch bands. Fucking dope, man. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, really good to be here.
What a great episode. And
thanks for the donuts.
Awesome. And let's give a shout out to your lady. And
Rachel, you sweet thing.
And thanks for coming by, man.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for doing the show and for having me on, Dean.
Rock and roll.
All right, brother.
There you go.